Okay, finally, we're at this last part here. All right, so here's where I want you to meet me. This is lesson 13. You should have brought everything forward from lesson 7. Now you've added images. You went into your style sheet and you said, oh, you added in properties for images. So you had to have a rule for image, IMG, curly bracket, and then inside here, I want to see at least 3 properties. Okay. Now, probably the easiest ones to use are the border ones or width and height. So you can see those are in here. If you're using border ones, you have to use style first because it can't do anything until it knows what kind of border you want. Then you can color it. Then you can put on that radius to kind of curve the edges. That's kind of a nice look. Okay. I want to walk you through if you're somebody who wants to use float. I want you to see what can happen and how you can try to work around it, because what's going to happen is your text is going to wrap and it might knock things out of position. Here's what I mean. So let me just put this in here and then say float. Boop. And since, well, we'll just say, should I leave it on the left? Let's go to the right and I can show you a couple things. Okay. Also, I finally figured out, why it took me forever to understand why my text for my citations was not getting smaller and had a font already. I'll explain that in a second. So what I just did is I just said float right for my images. So here's what should happen. All of my pictures went shift to the right, and now the text should wrap around it. I put them in the list, so let's see what happened. See what I mean? Okay, things start stacking up and getting a little strange here. So let's go into our HTML and let's see what we can do here. Because I kind of intended that I wanted my Hamilton image to be by the words Hamilton. And then I want my citation to be by it or below it. So here's what happens. Okay. We need to somehow, or let's say I want to do this and I want to artificially push the rest of the content lower. That's going to force me to put some spaces here. So if you remember way back in about lesson 4, is we saw that there was this amazing little break command. And I'm going to try putting it. Do I want it after the picture? Yes. So I'm going to go right here after the programming for my image. And I'm going to go bracket, BR bracket. Okay. That, recall, is a standalone tag. And all it does is adds an extra line. Now, you can't really tell. Well, you can kind of tell. Look here. Okay. Now, if you just keep adding that, so I'm just going to be lazy, copy, and then I'm going to start pasting. Paste, 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 paste. Okay, let's see what's happening. Ooh, see how it's pushing it down? I like that. Let's see. The only thing is it kind of reloads your page every time. Okay, now maybe do you like that? At least it's starting to push. All right. And you could do the same thing here after the image for Wicked. Now, rather than rekey all this, let's just copy that whole big chunk. And then after Wicked, but before the citation, I'm going to put a whole bunch of breaks. Oh, look at that. Wicked, blah, blah, blah. Now, do you like the fact that I shoved my images to the right and now these citations are still over here to the left? So you might say, hey, maybe what I want to do is text align those H6s and move them to the right. So we don't have a rule for my H6s. So let's try and see what happens. All right. I am going to get down here. Remember, you can just keep adding enters and it doesn't affect anything. So, all right. H6 are those teeny tiny little guys. I'm going to put my curly brackets. And then the command is called text align. and I'm going to pick to the right, put a semicolon. Okay, let's see what happened. Oh, look at that. Kind of like that. So, oops, why didn't it do? Oh, see, I got to push and put a bunch of spaces for the Sound of Music image. Unless you kind of like this, what you might want to do if you kind of like it right next to and smushed up against your image, you could take some of these spaces out and these lines would also go there as well. Totally up to you. Okay. But I wanted you to remember that there's in your HTML, you can kind of cheat and push stuff around and move things around using that line break command. Okay. Just a BR inside those brackets. All right. Play around. If you need to, like, grab your line of your programming, like say, oh my gosh, I don't like this at all, I want to move it. Well, then just grab your programming line, copy it, paste it somewhere else, delete where you had it, and then see where it falls. Sometimes it sounds a little clunky, but sometimes that's what you have to do. Okay. Nice. Now, I'm going to run you through the checklist again. We kind of talked about it, but I want to make sure you have these requirements, at least 3 images. Every image, make sure in your programming that you change the image description, which is after that alt equals quote mark stuff. That's just a description of your picture. Okay. Make sure you have the citation, author. And I'll be honest, if you're using a public domain image, sometimes you won't have an author. That's okay. You won't lose points for that. I get it. If it's your photo, make sure you put your name there. Website comes next. If you're using your photo and you've never posted it, then you don't have to put a website. The last one is licensing. It's either going to be public domain or some combination of Creative Commons. It's always going to have BY and then some combo of the other ones, or it's just BY. They just want attribution posted. Then in your style sheet, okay, make sure you have an image rule, and I should see at least 3 out of these choices. Okay, that's what you got to have. Now, the very last thing, because this is published, you have to make sure that everything is spelled correctly. Ah, okay. I got to be honest, the spelling needs improvement for some people. So here's what you are going to do. Open up a blank Google Doc. Okay. Code.org does not have a mechanism in it to have Grammarly or spell check or anything like that. So here's what you have to do. Have a Google Doc open. Go to code.org and find your project. And I want you to be on your index.html file. Start with find the body tag. On mine, it's line 6. Yours might be in a little different spot. And then start highlighting everything, depending on how much content you have. Okay? Go ahead and highlight everything until you see that closing body tag. So between the 2 body tags, copy it, paste it in your Google Doc. Okay? Boom. I got to do mine again because it's not liking this. Why is it? Oops. All right, while I'm working out mine, okay, I'll just take a quick sample here so that we can get things working properly. Stop. Okay, clearly mine's not working properly. However, here's what I want to see you happen, or I want to see happen for you, because I don't want any dumb templates or anything. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Now, it should start to underline things that it does not like or recognize. So interesting, oftentimes it will underline names. Okay, like here, this screen name doesn't sound right. Okay, so you can double check. I don't want you then pasting this back. I also want you to make sure you're looking at specific capitalizations and things, because here's what is going to happen when we go to correct these. If you have none or one typos, you don't get deductions. If you're missing 2 to 3, or you have 2 to 3 mistakes on there, you miss a couple of 1 point. Okay. If you have more than that, you're going to get more deductions, and that will automatically kind of bar you from getting an A. This is a published work, and you have to make sure you've got everything spelled correctly. Okay. So please double check. If you've got somebody who's a good speller, by all means utilize them. And then when you get back into code.org, as you were cruising through, these ones were assuming you were starting over in lesson 13 and doing something new. So it'll say, all right, add all your HTML. Let's look at the instructions. Yep. Okay. Then add your style in the CSS file. And then you're almost ready to publish. Make sure you have a check of all the requirements. But then here on 6, okay, and here is where I'm going to know that you are ready to be done. Okay, so on 6, it's going to tell you click the share button. Okay, that's the link to so-called publish it, and you can share that so people can look at it. But then also, when you click finish here, okay, it will take you to a survey on level 7, and please make sure that you answer those honestly. It's just 5 questions about how you like class and so on. I look to see that 6 is filled in. If it is not filled in, it doesn't get graded. Okay, because that tells me you aren't done. You're still working on it. You're fixing something, editing something. So it's critical when you're on this stage, okay, on level 6, and even if you built it all the way back here, make sure you hit that finish button down in the right corner, okay? When you have that done, whoo, we can finally be done. And then we're going to go on to some machine learning and some fun stuff, okay? What do I mean? It's all fun stuff. Happy coding.